infertility. Today I know we are going to talk about obesity, but if you look at it, there are many other factors. There is the age factor. For instance, when I came back from the UK, immediately I landed after doing my training. I saw a lady who was 47 years. Okay, and she had been trying to conceive, and they are giving her medication. So this is somebody you don't want to put time line on her. It's good you advise her that with age, there are other ways of addressing that fertility problem as opposed to putting age. Now, we also know there are patients probably who are suffering from other things. Maybe they are fibroids, big fibroids. You might not want to put time factor. So I'm looking at age, I'm looking at those medical problems, fibroids, endometriosis. You know, those ones will need treatment. Yeah, and of course, if you have age that is more or less advanced, okay, you don't want to talk of 1 year. Yeah, then you want to address the problem timely. For the issue of time, it is the early age. You're looking at those ones who are now getting into their peak fertility. We know the peak fertility will reach a peak by the age of 30. So maybe 20 to 30 years, they still have some time. Yeah, but once they are encroaching past 30, I think we need to be more cautious, because time is also not on our side, as we know that age is a big deterrent of conception.
There are different categories of fertility or infertility depending on how you want to look at it. Maybe just take us through that as well, so that people can understand where you know, they fall in each. Well,
you have couples that have never conceived, or men that have never sired a child. So that one is referred to as primary infertility. Okay. Secondary infertility, probably a woman has conceived, but then later on she's not able to conceive again. Or the man has had a child and probably later on they are not able to sire a child. Then we have what is called secondary infertility. So in a couple that already might have had a child before, but now they are not able to achieve a pregnancy. So there is primary and the secondary.
Yes. All right, I'll come back to you, Daktari, so that you can tell us more about you know, how now we can be able to go about this whole you know, fertility issue. But let me come to you, Anastasia. Just looking at what Daktari has shared, and earlier we were talking about how fertility relates with weight, and you've taken us through what is meant by healthy weight. You know, most of the time we're told, you know, you need to really watch what you eat, you need to engage in physical activity, you need to really be you know, physically fit and all that. I mean, how failure to do this, how destructive can it be for somebody, probably?
Oh, very much. Even if we go beyond fertility issues, extra weight leads to up 60+ diseases. So we know that extra weight is not just an issue of fertility, but high blood pressure, sleep apnea, high cholesterol, diabetes. So many life-threatening diseases come out of having extra weight. So of course, because what we do is weight management, and of course there's several solutions to handling your weight. And I know a lot of the times in Kenya, if someone has extra weight, you're told, or anywhere actually around the world, you're just told, stop eating. Why do you eat so much? Just stop. But that's not an option for so many people, because food is first, it's an addiction, it's a way of life, it's a mentality. And if you don't handle the root causes for why you eat the way you eat, you'll find it very difficult to just up and stop eating. That's not an option. So what we offer both surgical and non-surgical weight loss solutions. So non-surgical, we have this gastric balloon, which is just a silicone balloon that is put in your stomach. It's temporary.
Sorry to cut you short.
Sure.
I don't want you to take us too fast.
Okay.
Because you're trying to take it in one step at a time. One step at a time. Now that we know, you know, what is an unhealthy weight, and can you just take us through some of the causes, apart from eating or overeating? What are the others, you know, causes of an unhealthy weight or obesity?
So interestingly, actually, majority of why someone has extra weight is genetic. So that's not, you can't underestimate the genetic element in someone's weight. There's also social factors, environmental factors. So there's many things that actually build up. Like Dr. said, there's many reasons why someone will be infertile. There's also many reasons why someone will have extra weight.
All right. So Dr. let's connect this to excess weight or obesity and fertility. Where do they connect?
Thank you very much. Just for our viewers, I wanted just to also clarify a little bit so that they understand just the major causes. I know today we are going to look at obesity and fertility, but just for their benefit, I wanted just to go through most of the things that will cause infertility. I've talked about age. So age, you have what we call the maternal age, in other words, the age of the woman, and the paternal age. And might come to that later. And we are addressing that as fertility specialists as we speak, because when you talk about age, especially in women, we know we are all made from cells. And we have what is called biological weight and chronological weight. So we can sometimes freeze that biological age. In other words, we can preserve those eggs and use them in future. But that's a discussion for another day. Now, after you talk about age, there is the issue of diet, which I think we are going to discuss today. There is issues of biological hazards, occupational hazards, where you work, okay? There are those ones who work in probably where there are insecticides or very hot environment and all that. So that might also affect. And then we are looking at lifestyle, the way Anastasia has said. So at lifestyle, we are looking at issues of smoking, issues of too much use of caffeine can also affect. So all these things come up. Yeah, but for purposes of today, we are going to talk about obesity. For obesity, we see a lot of patients who come to our clinic. They are not having, I mean, they can't conceive, and most of them you'll find, or they have problems with their periods, especially if I'm talking about women. Even for men who are obese, it has been shown that those sperm parameters are also deranged at some point. But for women also, since women are also, they come very fast, you'll find most of them, they have fertility problems, they have problems with their menstrual cycle, and half of them you'll find they have what we call polycystic ovarian disease and all that. Now, the majority we see, and where fertility we think obesity affects fertility, is those ones who have got BMI above 30, as she'll agree with me. Even in developed countries, I'm happy that we are in the process of accreditation or working with NHIF, which I'm sure will bring on board a lot of people, or a lot of those who are disenfranchised, to access things like fertility treatment. And I think those are the areas that the government or NHIF will put down. Like in developed countries, if you have a BMI, developed countries, they pay for fertility for their population. And they tell the fertility specialists that if somebody is coming for fertility treatment and their BMI is above 30, you don't enroll them in the program until that is brought down.
Yeah, so that's when they need to go now and first of all enroll in a weight management program to cut some weight before they can actually go for the assisted reproductive treatment.
Thank you.
All right.
Most of them, even after cutting weight, you will find they will conceive naturally without our help.
Oh, okay.
Okay? Now, if we give them treatment with that very high weight, sometimes even the success of the treatment is very low. Yes. What we call implantation sometimes does not take place. And if they even conceive by good luck, then the miscarriages are also very high. Not to mention what Anastasia has talked about metabolic diseases, which also comes with that excess weight.
I want to understand clearly what is the relationship between having excess weight and conceiving?
Yes. Now, when you have excess weight, there is what we call dysfunction of the ovarian function, just by the excess hormones you have in your body. Yeah, we can't go literally in the biology, but your body produces some hormones which now will affect the ovarian function. And that's why I've said most of these women, you'll find they have what we call polycystic ovarian disease.
Or PCOS.
Or PCOS. So you'll find all their menstrual cycles are up and down. They don't even ovulate at most point. Yeah. So they have periods which you cannot predict and which probably half of the time we call them an ovulatory period. So they don't produce an egg.
All right.
Yes.
I'm coming back to you, but you know, Anastasia, so what should one do in terms of change of lifestyle and change of, as you prepare as a woman or as a couple, you want to have a child, what are some of the fundamental things you need to do so that you keep your weight in check or just be overall in good health?
First, I want us to, I don't know, Dr. you'll agree with me that extra weight is a disease. Obesity is a disease. So when it comes down to it, to the very core, if you are overweight or obese, that's something that you really have to take seriously. It's not, I know oftentimes we say beauty, you know, the big and beautiful. Of course, everyone is, you know, across the spectrum, people are beautiful in all sizes. But when it comes to your body function, actually, like we were talking about infertility, there's a lot of diseases that come out of this. So when you're a couple and you're trying to conceive, first you have to watch your diet. Now this is what Dr. has talked about. You have to watch your diet. What are you eating? Yeah, we need to maintain a nutritious and well-balanced diet. Of course, exercise. But many people, if you are overweight or obese, you're already so heavy that exercise might not be a solution for you. Because our bone structures, our skeletons are made for a certain weight, certain amount of pressure. And if you have so much extra weight, you risk actually damaging your body, damaging your bones, your cartilage, your joints even more if you now start excessively exercising. So we always say, first thing, change your diet, change your exercise habits. But in the event that you're already, that's not a solution for you, then there's other options. So we offer, first thing, psychotherapy for correction of eating habits. In this way, we actually try to target the root factors for why somebody eats how they eat. So psychologically, yeah? Because when you're a child, for example, you're taught from childhood, see this plate, you have to finish it. Why? Why do you have to finish it? So these things are implanted in our brains since when we're children, and it affects us long term. So that's the non-surgical. But we also have surgical options. So, do you want me to go into those now?
Yeah, no, not yet. not yet.
All right.
One thing I've captured there, though, is when a child is forced to finish the whole plate. I mean, that's quite common in many families. You're warning against that also. But, Dr. you can also add, you know, on what she has just said, the preparation into the journey of pregnancy or conceiving as a couple. What are some of the fundamental things that they need to do to increase the chances of conceiving?
Okay. Before I come to that, then I just want to highlight that here we are talking about weight and fertility. Now, weight, you have excess weight, which also we know affects fertility. We've talked of BMI above 30. You also have underweight. Yeah. So if you are looking at those who, especially women who have got a BMI of maybe 18 or so and below, also will have problem in conceiving. Yeah, because you'll find probably they have less than 22% of fat in their body. And you know, when fat is produced, then there's a system that works from your brain, what we call the hypothalamus, to tell your ovaries how to behave and how to produce those eggs. So when this fat is very low, that system is affected. When it is very high, it is equally affected. So it has to be within a particular range. Now, when you talk about also preconception, that is also an area that is important. It's important for all women, but it's also important especially for women who probably are in an advanced age. So sometimes we put them on medication that probably make it easier for them to conceive, because we know there are so many factors, things like nutrition, especially things like folic acid, for instance. Especially women in an advanced age. Lack of that also produces probably babies with neurotube defects or miscarriages. So you want to put them on preconception medication, and that's where also diet probably comes in.
All right.
I know patients ask me, what diet should I eat? Well, I try most of the time to send them to the expert, maybe the dietitian, to be able now to put down like what best they could eat.
Yeah.
But we have medications that they can take several months before starting to try to conceive.
Yeah. Now that you've raised that point,
yes.
just to address that very quickly, when you're talking about healthy diet, and here we are talking in the context of pregnancy and conceiving and having a child, what is it that you consider healthy for that kind of a person?
I think well-balanced. I think maybe Dr. can go specifically for, you know, someone who's trying to conceive, but I think this might apply across the board.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So high in vegetables, fruits and vegetables, so fibers, proteins, and carbohydrate. Your plate should not be majority carbohydrates.
That's what happens most of the time.
I think we have to,
yeah.
So prioritize your fruits, your vegetables, and your protein, and your carbohydrates should still be limited. Don't cut anything out. Here's the thing, you are not supposed to cut anything out of your diet. Everything should be in moderation, and it should all be balanced. We don't ever say, go on a diet, because it's not sustainable. It's not something that you will maintain long term, and the weight that you will lose, you'll just regain it eventually. So it should just become a lifestyle where the choices that you're making are just healthy and well balanced.
And everybody is different. You know, you choose what works for you and what you can sustain in the long run, right? Yeah. Doctor, let me come back to you. I know you have something you want to add, but there are people who gain weight during pregnancy. How do you explain that?
Thanks.
They were just in perfect health, good weight, healthy weight,
right.
And then during the pregnancy and even after the pregnancy, some even gain it after the pregnancy. How do you even explain that?
Well, I think that's where the issue of preconception maybe comes in.
Yeah.
You have probably patients or clients who probably are also diabetic. They know themselves. They've been diabetic, or they've been diabetic also during pregnancy. You want them, when they start the journey, at least most of these things are okay. Their BMI normally is taken as they start pregnancy. You don't want women who start a pregnancy with a very high BMI. That will become a problem, because once they're in the pregnancy, then there are many problems they can get, including things like diabetes, miscarriages, premature deliveries, and so many. So you want women to start the pregnancy journey at a very, to be in a very good state. Okay, so most of them you advise that before you embark on pregnancy, then we don't want you to have a very high BMI. Okay, it is very challenging, because most of the women, for instance, they're already pregnant. I don't know how we can address pregnancy and very high BMI, because they ask me, how can I start cutting weight? And here I am, I'm pregnant. Okay, and even being clinicians, we are very afraid, because we don't want to tell these women, go to the gym and strain, because sometimes that strain can also bring about many other problems. So we are very cautious.
There are people who gain weight,
yes,
you know, in the 4th, the 5th month of pregnancy. Others gain weight, you know, after they've delivered their babies. Is there any scientific explanation to why that would happen? Well,
we know that probably in the early pregnancy, you know, the baby is very small. Most of women, maybe they might probably lose weight. It also depends what they are eating. Most of the time when they ask me what to eat, I normally just say eat healthy and avoid a lot of junk and all that. Well, towards the end of the pregnancy, we know most of the weight will be from the baby itself, because the baby also gains a lot of weight. We are talking of probably, to get a term good baby, we are talking of 3 kilos and above. Okay, just the baby. And then now the rest are those other fluids, the placenta and many things. So I think from the weight the woman starts with during pregnancy, she should not be very far after delivery.
Yeah. And losing that weight sometimes is also usually a hard nut to crack.
Yes, because I always say if you gain a lot then after delivery, then you have a big role to bring that down.
All right.
Yes.
Anastasia, Dr. has touched on something that, you know, many also would want to know concerning exercise and pregnancy. You know, you're told to keep fit. Are you supposed to go to the gym when you're pregnant? Others have sustained their physical activity even during pregnancy. I mean, what can you tell us in terms of advice or some safe ways of staying physically active even during pregnancy as part of efforts to just manage your weight? And yeah.
Yeah, I think it's important to realize it's very individual, because how I feel and my body might be different from how you feel. So you shouldn't do anything that gives you pain or discomfort. So something like walking, it really depends. The level of activity that one person can sustain versus another is very individual, very unique. So I wouldn't go so far as to even give a blanket statement. It's just do what feels good to you.
But you need to be physically active during that
Yes.
Process?
Doctor,
is it
you have
important?
something to
I think activity is still important. Yeah, in fact, we encourage things like, we'll encourage brisk walking and all that. We know pregnancy, when you're pregnant, is also psychologically very draining. So you also want women to undergo a lot of stress, and even sometimes you get a lot of depression and all that. And that's why sometimes even the eating habits become, you know, a challenge. Yeah, so of course, so, you know, doing brisk things, so making your mind active, engaging your mind is also equally important, both to the mother and the baby. Yes.
I wanted to talk more. I know you had touched on this, but talk more about the complications that rise that connect to weight and pregnancy. What are some of the worst case scenarios that you have experienced as a doctor on, you know, women who probably have excess weight and they're expecting their baby? What are the what are the expectations?
Well, I've said about the women who are having excessive weight with challenges of conceiving. That one I've said,
Yes.
implantation becomes a problem, miscarriages or very early a problem. Now, once they get pregnant and they have excessive weight,
Yes.
then half of the time you will find they're at risk of things like metabolic problems like diabetes, depending also on the genetic and the history. So things like diabetes of pregnancy is equally high in these women with very, very, very extreme of weight, especially obesity. Other problems, high blood pressure, pressure in pregnancy is also there, which also, of course, will, these are things that will probably interfere with the growth of the baby. So at the end of the day, it's not just to carry a baby, but it's to have a safe delivery, whereby the baby also will be healthy, the mother will also continue being healthy, because we know that one of the biggest problems you also have in our country are things of what we call mortality associated with pregnancy, especially in areas whereby service cannot be reached, or these women cannot reach this service. So once they have excessive weight, those children also might be born with also excessive weight and still carry the problems in the future.
So it's actually true what reports say, that
Yes.
If you have excess weight, chances of you giving birth to a child who will have weight problems are high.
Exactly. So when you're looking at those children who are born probably 4 kilos and above, yeah, they need to be looked at very keenly, especially in their early life, so that they also don't end up to get things like what we call juvenile diabetes or many other problems associated with that.
You have something to add on that?
Yeah, there's studies actually that are done, long-term studies in the US and Canada, on women who give birth to children having excess weight, and then after they lose weight, they give birth to another child. And they track these children in the future. You'll find the children who are given birth to an overweight mother have much higher chances of being overweight or obese in the future than the children who are given birth to the same mother who had already lost weight. So when you're talking about even giving birth to a child, your health, your weight actually is impacts your children and their health and their weight way, way into the future.
Okay, again, something.
Yes, yes, and that only does not, what Anastasia said, does not only apply on weight. We also know that mothers, for instance, who probably take excessive alcohol are bound to have children who probably have those symptoms of alcoholism. Alcoholism,
okay.
Yes. So that is there. Even drugs. Yeah,
okay.
even drugs, those ones who abuse drugs. Yeah, so all those things. So
I thought, alcoholism is a lifestyle. It ends,
Yes.
how does it get into your baby's system?
Yes, but you see, they come out with what we call fetal alcohol syndrome. Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So even drugs, I'm sure, it's something that still affects the children they give birth to.
So before you do something, if you're a mother and you're expectant, think about the future of your child.
Exactly.
What is it that you're passing down to them?
Yeah.
No wonder they say even during pregnancy you can be talking to your child and you connect and they hear you. There's some interesting facts to learn in case you're in that particular journey. But let's talk about something that I also came across while I was preparing for the show. That what is the connection between cesarean birth and weight? The chances higher, or there is no connection totally?
There could be a connection because
Yes.
they have said if you have very high weight, you're obese, the chances of having a very big baby is there. And hence the chances of pushing that baby naturally becomes a problem because you have a very big baby. So the chances of cesarean is equally very high. Okay, and also it's a challenge because once you take these women for cesarean, it's not easy even for the surgeon. And the risk factors associated with cesarean are very high, especially if you have a big baby. The issues of bleeding during that surgery itself is equally high. And even if they manage to push normally, then the chances of bleeding is equally extremely high. Yeah, and the chances of that baby probably having trauma also during birth is equally very, very high. Yeah, so all those big babies and all that, they come at a very big cost. Yeah.
Okay, so there is a connection.
There is a connection.
I want us to talk about now how to cut that weight. Everybody wants to carry their bundle of joy at the end of that pregnancy journey. Plus, there are millions of women and men and couples out there who want to have a child. And weight is just one of the things that we are discussing this morning that could limit the chances of, a couple conceiving. So we want to avert this weight issue when it comes to fertility. And I just want us to talk about the options that are out there, Anastasia. So what is it that is the solution then? So there's somebody who has been advised to work on their weight before they can actually get pregnant, or they just want to be generally healthy and have a healthy weight. What options are we looking at?
So that's where we come in. We do the non-surgical and surgical options. So I know there's been a big trend to go overseas to get these procedures done or to manage weight, but we're available here. We're a Kenyan based with 20 years of experience here in Nairobi. And the non-surgical option is it's called a gastric balloon. That's one of them. It's non-invasive, so it's not a surgery. There's a silicone balloon that is inserted in your stomach. It comes in two forms, either as a capsule, as a pill that you swallow, and it's inflated in your stomach, that you don't go to sleep. Or there's an endoscopic one, where you go to sleep, and through endoscopy, the balloon is put in your stomach. Benefits is that there's no surgery, there's no cutting, nothing. It stays in your stomach for 6 to 8 months, and then the endoscopic one is removed, while the capsule just disintegrates, shrinks down to its original size, and passes out naturally.
Because I was about to ask, how does the balloon get to your stomach without surgery? But you say it's inflated when it's already
it's attached
inside
to a
the
small
stomach.
tube. So you actually swallow it, and it's attached to a tube, and that tube is what fills it up with water. So it just takes up space. So what happens is you don't get hungry so fast. You get full quickly because there's something that takes up space in your stomach. You see? So you eat small amounts of food and you become full. That's one of the options for weight loss. Our patients lose between 5 to 10 kgs in a month. But for somebody who's this is recommended for someone who's overweight or class 1 obesity. But if someone is already class 2 and above, so BMI of 35 and above, these are candidates now for bariatric surgery. Bariatric surgery is either the gastric sleeve surgery or the gastric bypass. What happens is you have the surgery to change the anatomy of your stomach, of your digestion. These are permanent procedures. where your stomach size is actually physically changed to become smaller. It does two things. First, it restricts the amount of food that you can eat. This is long term now. And it changes your absorption, so you don't absorb as much calories as you would have before. These surgeries have been done in the US, Canada, Europe for over 20 years now. And it's not, you don't cut, there's no big incision. Yeah, it's just small little keyholes. It's called laparoscopic surgery. So you have
make it sound so simple, though.
It is. You know, we actually we go live from theatre. We're going to be operating in the next few weeks. So we actually live stream from theatre. You can join and watch. 1 hour, and you come out with a totally different digestion.
What an experience! But then, I mean. What do you use to determine who requires the surgical method and the non-surgical method? And also talk to us more about the non-surgical methods before you get to the level where you need a surgical method of managing your weight. What are some of the non-surgical methods that you have?
Of course, we don't recommend surgery unless a person has tried everything under the sun. So we don't actually tell people surgery is for you. No. First, they have to have shown that they have tried everything there is to lose weight. So the first thing is this thin gastric balloon, which is the non-surgical. We also have this, we are the pioneers in this, the psychotherapy for the correction of eating habits. Now that's because we have to understand that, you know, your relationship with food starts with your mind. It starts in your mind. It starts as how you were taught as a child. We talked about that earlier. So the first thing is really to understand how you think and change your perception of food so that you can make the right choices. You can look at, you might think that carbohydrates on the plate as the main dish,
the more the merrier,
right, is the right way to eat. But then with these sessions, it's group therapy, so there's many, you know, people who are also in the same boat as you with the doctor, and you discuss every week different topics for, you know, how do you perceive food. So of course non-surgical options are the first solution.
All right, I'm coming back to you, Anastasia, just so you can make it as simple as possible for us, but so far so good. I just want us to also follow up on something that we are tracking for our viewers. It's an IGAD heads of state meeting currently happening at Safari Park Hotel right here in Nairobi. We got our reporter Caroline Jenga, who is following up this for us. For a quick update, let's listen into what she has for us. A very good morning, Caro. What is it that you can tell us with regards to this meeting?
Well, thank you, Serfine. We are coming live to you from Safari Park, where heads of state of the Intergovernmental Authority on Development are expected to attend the 39th Ministerial Extraordinary Conference here at Safari Park. And we are expecting President Uhuru Kenyatta as well as the President of Uganda, since there are 7 member countries of the IGAD region, to arrive here in less than an hour just to speak on matters peace and security within the region, as well as speak about the food insecurity crisis that is facing some of these member states, and also something else. They will speak on development of the region. And this summit comprises, or rather this region, or rather IGAD region, comprises of 7 member countries, that is Kenya, Uganda, Somalia, South Sudan, Sudan, as well as Ethiopia, and also Eritrea, but it is an inactive right now. As you can see behind me, rather, you can see all the flags of the countries that are expected to arrive here. Government leaders as well as ministers are expected as well to come and speak on those few issues that I've talked about earlier on. And also this was expected to happen early in the year, but because of COVID issues, they were unable to ensure that this summit happens this year. And here we'll be talking to various government leaders just to hear what they have to say about the region and how this IGAD, Intergovernmental Authority on Development, has helped these regions to grow economically, socially, as well as politically. And one thing that will come out clear is that this IGAD region is expected to ensure that trade within these 7 member countries is smoothless, movement of goods and services, as well as other issues are addressed during this summit. We'll be expecting President Uhuru Kenyatta later on this. Well, when he arrives, we'll be bringing you up to date and telling you what is happening here on ground. But first, we'll take you back in studio, Serfine.
All right, Caroline Jenga, thank you for that update. Just talking to us about plans for the IGAD summit that is supposed to be taking place right here in Kenya's capital, Nairobi, and something that is seen as a major boost in regional integration. And of course, we'll be getting clearer details about what is to be expected and even about that particular meeting as we continue with the day's coverage. But in studio, we have been talking about weight and fertility, the connection between the two. Did you know that if you have excess weight or you're underweight, you could actually just limit your chances of getting pregnant in case you want to? Well, reports and research has been done to prove that. And that is why we're having this conversation this morning. How can you stay within the right range of the weight that is termed as healthy weight? And I've been having this conversation with a panel of two, a lady and a gentleman. I'm talking to Dr. George Ogweno. He's a fertility specialist. And of course, we have Anastasia Shukina. She's the operations manager at the Nairobi Bariatric Center. Thank you for staying with us.
Thank you.
All right, so before we went to my colleague Caro, you were talking about the options that are there, the non-surgical and the surgical options for weight management. And you touched on something that I would say is picking up. It's quite a trend, the gastric balloon. And I have so many questions about this because you said it's inflated inside your stomach, then it occupies space, and now it helps you limit the amount of food that you consume. Mm-hmm. And that can help you to keep your weight in range. I mean, how do you feel? I mean, feeling full all the time. Do you have that feeling of feeling full all the time? Can be quite uncomfortable.
So you do feel hungry.
Uh-huh.
That's not...
you don't feel full all the time?
No, it's not like you feel full all the time. No. Your stomach can handle up to 3 liters of food. So this is like 500 ml that's sitting in your stomach. Uh-huh. So it's just that you feel full faster. You will still feel hungry. You'll just fill up faster. Yeah. Okay. And the balloon, it stays there for how long? Is it like a long-term solution, or it's a temporary way of... Do you have it throughout your life now? No. Uh-huh. So it is short-term. It is between the one that's swallowable stays for 4 months and then disintegrates and passes naturally. The one that is endoscopic stays up to 8 months. Mm-hmm. So it is a temporary solution. And that's why we always talk to our patients that the balloon is a tool. It's not a foolproof, you put the balloon and now for the rest of your life, you're going to maintain this weight. Because you will lose weight. But when the balloon disintegrates or is removed, how do you maintain that weight? And that's where it's important to combine the gastric balloon with this psychotherapy, this correction of eating habits, this course on actually targeting how you eat and to make the right decisions. So definitely it has to come together for long-term, actually, sustained weight loss. Mm-hmm. You said it's made of silicone? Yes. How safe is it, considering the safety concerns people have raised with regards to silicone? What assurance? Very, very safe. Mm-hmm. It's actually... So there are, of course, we always have to talk about any complications that may arise with any procedure. Yeah. So for the balloon, it might have some leakage. We haven't had it happen, but it could happen that there might be some leakage or some other... I mean, I can't really say anything else because even for us, you know, we pride ourselves in having the highest quality of procedure and care. So we haven't had any complications, but leakage could be an issue eventually for someone. So these methods you're talking about, do you propose them for somebody who has not conceived, or they are safe even for somebody who is pregnant, you know? No, so you're not recommended to have it when you are pregnant. No, that's important. Right, of course. So it's important to plan before you get pregnant. So now that's why we're talking about extra weight and infertility. Yeah. So before you get pregnant, this is an option for you. And then after you give birth, we actually recommend that mothers wait up to a year after they've had the baby to to actually have the gastric balloon or to have any other surgical procedures. Yeah, because in any case, you'll still be losing or fluctuating in your weight with your hormones when you're feeding your baby and in that first year. So after a year after you've given birth is when your weight can more or less be called stable, and then we can, you know, say, okay, this is an option for you, or this is an option for you.
All right, I'll come back to you to tell me about the cost implications, because the cost, the cost is another issue here. Daktari, we're talking about weight, and you cited quite a number, both of you talked about quite a number of causes of extra weight or obesity. Genetics was one of them. So here's a person who, it's not by choice, they're just overweight. That's how they are, based on whatever reasons. Probably even earlier you said there's a connection. If a mother is overweight, the child may be overweight. It's something beyond their control, essentially. That's how they've always been. But they want to get a baby, or they are pregnant already. How do you deal with such unique cases?
Well, I think that's a big challenge.
Yeah.
There are women who come to see us, probably they need fertility treatment. Others even probably they've tried and they think the only option they have is IVF, and they want us to start treatment. So most of them are overweight. So what we do is we send them, first of all, or I ask them to be seen by the weight reducing team, the bariatric, but that does not stop us from sometimes commencing treatment, because you might want to delay the treatment, and as we talked, that age is also a factor of fertility. Then they get, most of them are also frustrated by the time they are coming. They are under duress, anxiety, stress. Even we normally have a psychologist also to talk to them, so that at least to mentally also put them in good shape. So half of the time, sometimes we find ourselves starting the treatment, but I always tell them there's no harm to start the treatment, but we know you are also being followed up with the weight reduction team. I know there are many questions, like when should we literally start treatment before achieving a particular weight? Yeah, like those ones who you say genetically are big, you are not going to deny them service by virtue of that. So you still go ahead. You know, probably in terms of treatment, it's gonna be a bit challenging. The same way when we are doing things like IVF, and we have the old age women, then we spend a lot of effort on giving very high dosages of medication, as opposed to younger women who probably needs equally the same IVF treatment. So there are implications in terms of management, but that does not rule out stopping to manage at all.
All right.
Yeah.
Is there an option for that category that is overweight based on their genetical makeup? Yeah.
I mean, all of these options work for everyone. So it's not, the reason for why you're overweight does not necessarily, like, if you set out to lose weight, these solutions will work for you. One of them at some point will work for you, whether it's the non-surgical or even at some point the surgical. They will work.
There's usually something, even as you add on that, there's usually something that is said when a woman is pregnant, that they're supposed to really watch what they eat. It should be balanced, like what you were saying earlier. But there's one thing that has always caused a big debate, this eating for two. Is there anything as eating for two, and is it important? Yeah, because that is where everything also sometimes happens. When a woman feels like they are compelled to eat because they are eating for two. How important is this? Is it even a thing?
Well, exactly what you said. Some women will think of eating for two, so they end up probably even indulging in food that is not healthy. Yeah. So that becomes a problem. Okay, so I think it's just how they could be advised in terms of how much they eat. And of course, I'm sure you'll agree with me, the dietitian, you also don't want to eat so much where there's no activity.
So do you increase your portion? Are you supposed to increase your portion, and how much is safe?
In terms of portion, I don't know, but maybe they can say. But I think portion is just because at the end of the day, you still want to maintain. The baby is very effective. The baby will survive in very difficult circumstances. So by eating so much does not mean that you are giving a lot to the baby psychologically. Yeah, you could just eat what is enough to you, but the baby is still, they have the way of how to get those nutrients.
So you don't eat for two.
You don't eat for two.
Yeah, that's what I want to
say.
You don't eat.
I mean,
that's simple. Yes, the baby is very effective, and they are going to literally survive. So the more you eat, most of it is put on you.
So
as a woman,
you gain it as weight.
You gain it as weight.
You can add on that as well.
No, I 100% agree. I think Dr. has covered it very well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so we want to talk about the men a bit. I want you to touch on the men a bit. You talked about the complications of weight that relate on women, just also men, because this fertility subject, we usually just place it on the shoulders of the woman, and the man is left out of the subject. Let's talk about the man and weight and fertility. Yes. What is the connection?
Yes, the connection is big time.
Yes.
And I'm happy that we've reached a point where we are discussing fertility in men. For men, also fertility is affected when you talk of age, because all this, what we are talking about, are cells. And we say cells also degenerate over time. Now, the difference probably between men and women as far as fertility is concerned is women are born with their eggs that they are going to use throughout their lifetime. So they don't bring in new eggs. The amount that they were born with when they make the eggs when they are still in the womb of the mother. So that is what they have in their lifetime. Now for men, they produce what we call sperms, and these are produced periodically. Okay, so with age, probably that is also affected. But that's why when you talk of women, and we are now doing what is called cryopreservation. Preservation means you preserve those cells. Women nowadays delay their fertility because of many things, career, not the right person at that time, and all that. So as they grow, for instance, I give an example, a woman at 40, her eggs are 40 years. Yes, and a woman at 20, her eggs are 20 years. So I always say, if you keep your eggs for one reason or another, at 20 years, and you want to use them at 40 years. So
by keeping, it means they have to be removed from your body.
Yeah, we remove them
and stored externally somewhere.
Exactly. So we stop that biological clock.
Okay.
Okay? And we stop it. We keep it. The chronological age, you still continue with your age. But if you are coming to use them at 40 and you stored them at 20,
they are still 20.
They are still 20.
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
Yes, and this is something that is very good coming up, even especially for cancer patients, what we call oncofertility. I'll still come back, I'm sure, to your question, whereby they are going to get treatment. Nowadays they survive more because of good treatment for cancer and all that, even young ones. So where treatment has been shown that it can affect their fertility, you can do preservation, and they can use it for their fertility in future, because nowadays they will live long, and what will be important will be their, enjoying their life and having, siring children like anybody else. Okay. Now coming back to your question on obesity and men, it's been shown that sometimes sperm parameters are affected in the obese men, and also sexual function, erectile dysfunction, all those things come in. Well, nowadays we also see a lot of men who come to see us for fertility treatment as opposed to before. Before you will only see the woman all the time, and the blame was always on the woman. But nowadays I think we know that also men contributes quite a big chunk of fertility. We are talking of 30 to 40% of fertility problem. Yeah. So it's important we still identify these things and address them on time.
All right.
Yeah, so that's why when we address them when we do fertility, we do things like IUI, for instance. IUI, it's a lower level of a fertility treatment in these couples who cannot achieve pregnancy. And sometimes you find the man, everything is fine, the woman, everything is fine, but they are not just getting pregnant.
And they can't explain it, and
they can't explain it.
Happening.
Yes, so we give this treatment, and half of the time they are also successful. Yeah, because sometimes you might look at those from the men, you look at the sperm and it looks all good. Yeah, but then there are many factors in it that probably is bringing about the problem of conception.
Unfortunately, we've run out of time for this conversation, but I believe that so far, I mean, there are very fundamental points that you both have shared this morning concerning how weight relates to fertility and how it is important for one to make sure that they are in the healthy weight in the event that they want to, begin the journey of being parents, conceiving and having a baby. It's very important that you watch what you eat, you engage in physical activity, and just make sure that you consult with experts such as yourself to see whether you're okay, you're good to go. Yeah. So I want us to wind up, and in your final remarks, just talk to people who could be watching this morning. They've really struggled in this journey of having a baby, and because of the stigma, the shame and the silence around this topic of fertility, they are still trying 8 years down the line. What does the road ahead look like for them? What would you advise them to do? Let me start with you, Anastasia.
Well, I think I would say, first of all, is that if you have extra weight, from our perspective, from our specialization, there's options. This is not the end of the road for you, and there is an option. So make sure that you still consider that weight can be one of the hindrances, one of the blockages, not just for a woman, but also for a man. And there are options for you. If you have struggled with extra weight for a long time, maybe since childhood, doesn't mean that has to be like that forever. You can lose weight, you will lose weight. And for us, we always say, for us, it's always we increase the quality of life. We are always working to improve the quality of life. And when you lose weight, not only will you improve the quality of your life, you'll improve the quality of your children's life and generations now to come, because you'll change your relationship with food.
All right. I wanted just to know if the cost implications, what range are we working with?
So gastric balloon is 350,000. And the surgery is 850,000. So depending on where you stand
and what you want
and what the recommendations are.
All right. Daktari, 30 seconds for your closing remarks.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think I always say we are all a product of fertility, and we have to take care of fertility issues, because that's the future of the whole world. Now, for Kenyans, I think is a good news, because we've simplified fertility, and people should not be worried. All treatments that are available, there's no need to even go to other places. They are right here in Kenya, in many areas. So it's just a matter of identifying what is the problem timely and addressing it. And I think that's the way to go.
Thank you so much, Dr. George Ogweno, fertility specialist. I was also talking to Anastasia Shukina, the operations manager, Nairobi Bariatric Center. Thank you, both of you, for your time. All right, and now I want to take you back to Safari Park Hotel. Currently, Carol Njenga is going to be talking to the Agriculture CS, Peter Munya. Let's listen in.
Well, thank you, Serfine. We are back at it again here, still at Safari Park, but right now I'm joined by the Cabinet Secretary for Agriculture, Peter Munya, who is also attending the 39th Extraordinary Summit, that is IGAD Summit, that is happening in just an hour's time. And just to speak on some of the objectives that IGAD has for this meeting is on food security and ensuring the 7 member states are food secure. What would you say about, as a region, are we food secure?
Yes, indeed, IGAD discusses issues relating to food security, because food security has an impact on even other security matters. And if you look at the constitutive documents of IGAD, one of the key agenda of IGAD is to contribute to the challenges of food security in the Horn of Africa, because Horn of Africa is a region with cyclical droughts that contribute to challenges of accessing and affording food. And the idea is to look for regional solutions and regional programs that can impact on food security. And as we speak, there is a program that we are running that is being supported by the World Bank and the individual countries of IGAD to support the livestock sector to ensure that the challenges fitting that key sector in this region is supported to contribute to our food security. And the program is basically a huge investment in terms of supporting businesses, building capacity for livestock traders, livestock owners, making sure there is animal feed, making sure the markets are available, linking them to markets, supporting them with credit, and also supporting them with insurance, livestock insurance, so that if there is drought and livestock are affected, then you can be able to get compensation. So there is that program that is being upscaled and it's being run at the regional level. We concluded the negotiations like I think 2 weeks ago, and I think it's one of the programs that is going to be report will be given on the progress on that program here in this meeting.
One of the other things that Kenyans want to know is that with the high cost of living, the price of unga has gone up, and they're wondering, is the price expected to come down anytime soon?
Yes, indeed. We have a problem of rising cost of essential commodities, not just unga, because of the circumstances we are in post-COVID, the disruption of logistics for transporting and accessing commodities across the world, and the drought situation that is also affecting us here, that has been there for like 3 seasons now in this whole region. And remember there were also locusts, so we've been hit by three disasters in the same period that has contributed to escalating food shortages that has contributed to high prices. Nevertheless, we are working very hard to mitigate that. We are trying to see where we can access maize that is cheap. There isn't any maize that is cheap in East African region because we are affected by drought. I've talked to Tanzania. The harvest is small, so the maize they have now is they're trying also to keep for themselves. Uganda, they're harvesting, and some of it is coming to Kenya, but they are also small harvests. So the price is actually, if you go to Tanzania and you go to Uganda, you'll find maize is more expensive as we speak in Tanzania and Uganda than Kenya. Luckily, we have been able to get other countries like Zambia that are having a bumper harvest, and we are working on logistics to see how that maize can come here. And we have made progress. I'm told some of it, not huge quantity, but some of it is already on the way. I know one trader who is bringing 22,000 metric tons. Another one is bringing 10,000 metric tons. But we are working on a bigger consignment that can impact on the prices. We have also suspended levies on maize imports, all the levies, so that again we can bring down the prices. So government is working very hard, but circumstances are very hard. Sometimes beyond the control of government. And that's what citizens need to understand. If you have been looking at the media, you saw even the President of America talking to his citizens and telling them, look, prices are going up and they're about to go up. So what we need is to look of ways of mitigating the impact so that people can afford food. This is why it's a global crisis. It's a global problem, and it doesn't help when we politicize it and try to shift the blame to individuals, to government, even people in government shifting blame to government. You wonder who they are and where they are, because you see a deputy president of our country blaming it, the government is also as a deputy as a cause of the problem of cost of food. You find a bizarre situation. Instead of using his knowledge, if he has solutions within government to find solutions, he's out there attacking and looking very funny.
CS, what over the delays at the border?
I was at the border last week. There are no delays now. Actually, there is no maize there. There is no delays. We agreed that no truck should stay there more than an hour. So we agreed even that we will send KRA people, because a lot of delays, largely KRA. We agreed we will send them at particular point in Tanzania, because they are allowed to inspect them there at the source, so that they finish the paperwork. When the trucks come, they are already in Ken trade system. So it becomes very easy to just clear them. That we agreed last week when I was in Namanga. We are also working to ensure even maize from Ethiopia. I'm told there is some supplies also coming from Ethiopia. I was sorting out some traders who are stuck at the border in Moyale yesterday. We are ensuring that no bottlenecks. There are no bottlenecks in terms of allowing food to come into the country, because we are in an extraordinary situation.
So you've talked about Zambia. Which other country are you exploring to bring?
Our biggest target is Zambia, because long haul very difficult. If we were to look for maize in Mexico and other places, look at the distance and the logistics. By the time that maize is here, we are approaching the harvest season. So we want to concentrate. We have allowed, and indeed that's the other point we mean to make. We have authorized all traders to import maize duty-free. We gazetted and we allowed it. So they can get it from anywhere. But we are making an effort ourselves as government to support them to access maize in Zambia. Yes.
Thank you so much, CS. I appreciate. That has been the Cabinet Secretary for Agriculture, Peter Munya, talking on food security in the country and also as a region where we are at. And he says that there is a program that has been rolled out to ensure that as a region, as I said earlier on, we are 7 members of the IGAD region, to ensure that we are food secure as a region. And now I will speak now to Eugene Wamalo, who is joining me right now to speak on some of the objectives that IGAD has as a region, and also to look at as Kenya. Where are we when it comes to meeting up some of these objectives, when it comes to food security, when it comes to peace and security, as well as development? Where are we as a country or as a member states?
I think as a country, I would say we are doing our best to see how, first of all, to stabilize the region. And without peace, without security, really we cannot have development and address the issues that touch on our people. The number one priority is really security. And as the Minister for Defense, I am very, very proud of what our KDF soldiers are doing, not just in terms of protecting our borders, but also supporting peace missions in the region. We have our soldiers in Somalia, and we've done a good job there of stabilizing Somalia, because that is the biggest threat to our national security, the threat of Al-Shabaab. We also have our soldiers in DRC now. The challenges we are having in Congo, we have had a team there. Our soldiers are on the ground trying to stabilize, and also all the way to Mozambique. So we are actually an exporter of security in the region, and we are proud that as a nation we are working with other member states in the IGAD region to stabilize the region. But more so, the other security issue is really the challenge of climate change, because it is an existential threat to all of us in the region. We've had drought in Kenya. When you look at Somalia, all the way to Sudan, even Uganda, that normally has good rains. My colleagues in Uganda who are here today are telling me, for the first time, they didn't have a good harvest. They don't have enough maize. We normally have maize coming to Kenya whenever we have a shortage from Uganda. But even in Tanzania, they are not having a good harvest. So the biggest challenge as we meet here as a region is the issue of climate change, the issue of food security. And we know that we're in a political season where people want to politicize this thing. They say, therefore we blame the government. Some things are beyond the control of the government. And it's just not a local issue. It's now a global issue, and it's a regional challenge, and that is why heads of state are meeting here and member states of IGAD are meeting here to see how we can build a resilient country and a resilient continent and a region. And we are here to work on those strategies.
Okay. Yeah. Talking about peace and security, what of the escalating tension at the border between Sudan and Ethiopia? Where are we with that in sorting it out?
I think that is a great concern, even as we meet here. Of course, there have been tensions between Ethiopia and Sudan and Egypt over the Nile waters and the building of the dam. But as we speak now, there are tensions building on the Ethiopia-Sudan border, the Al-Shaka area, and we are also seeing how we can come in as a region to talk to our neighbors, to talk to the concerned parties, to resolve the matter amicably. Because we have enough challenges in the region, and as a country that has provided leadership when it comes to security, Kenya will continue playing that role in contributing to peace in the region, and we're engaging Ethiopia, we're talking to Sudan, and even as we meet here today, the commonalities of the challenges facing us, each of our countries and our region, makes it an imperative of us working together. And I believe as we meet here, we want to look at those challenges and we want to look at strategies and ways and means of addressing these challenges so we can have a stable region, we can have a prosperous region where no one is left behind. Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
It has been Eugene Omalo, who is the Minister for Defense. The President is not yet here. The function was supposed to start at 11, but he's yet to arrive. But I can see the Executive Secretary for IGAD, who is Waken Gebeyehu, who will also be speaking in this event. And also later on, we'll have a statement from, that is President Uhuru Kenyatta. Later on, we'll also have a statement from the chair of the IGAD, who is Abdel Fattah al-Burhan. Hope I've pronounced that name correctly. And later on, also, we have statements from IGAD partners, the African Union, the UN Special Envoy, United States Special Envoy, and much, much more. Conversation is on peace and security, food security, as well as development within the 7 member states region. Back to you, Serfine.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Caroline Jenga, there coming to us live from Safari Park Hotel, right here in Kenya's capital, Nairobi. The country is expected to be hosting the IGAD summit that will bring together 7 heads of states who are members of IGAD. And of course, a lot is going to be discussed, including food security matters, peace, and the security of the whole region, also talking about development strategies for the region. We'll be talking about that in just a bit. But for now, allow us to take a very short break right here on News Check. We are coming back with more. Remember, on the other side, we will be picking our second conversation as we assess the state of the race, issues that are developing on the campaign trail just 34 days to the August polls. Do stay with us. We take that break now.
Kupata lazima nishike kama skiza tune yako. Bonyeza *811 *962 hash.
Lazima nishike mapema. Nisiposhika hii simu mapema utakaasirika. Unajua mimi nikiwa mtu ya marathon najua niko na experience kabisa. Niko na experience. If you don't hurry, you will not break the record. Okay, wacha nishike hii simu.
Kupata lazima nishike, bonyeza *811 *962 hash. *811 *962 hash.
As campaign intensified for the upcoming general election, what does all this mean for you, the voter? What do the candidates have to offer? How prepared are agencies charged with the election process? Join John Kuria and Serfine Achieng on Kenya Decides. This and every Tuesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 as we unpack elections 2022 with a panel of various stakeholders. Make informed electoral decisions.
Thank you so much for staying with us on KBC Channel 1. In case you're just joining us, this is News Check. As we seek to explore issues that are developing in the country, making news, we have studio conversations to give you depth in some of these issues. And right now, we are just 34 days to the August polls. A lot has been happening, not just at the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission, but also among the political players who are eyeing different elective seats in the country. And of course, we just saw the 4 presidential candidates. Now we have 4 manifestos officially on the table for Kenyans to scrutinize and understand what these presidential candidates have in store for Kenyans. That is going to be forming part and parcel of our conversation this morning. I'm going to be having a sit down with Bernard Wakoli. He is a political analyst. Thank you, Bernard, for creating time for us.
Thank you very much, Serfine, for having me.
All right, always a pleasure.
Thank you.
Before we look at the state of the race, earlier we were at Safari Park, live there. You saw preparations for the IGAD summit that is supposed to be hosted right here in Nairobi. A lot is to be discussed in this critical meeting that is going to be targeting about 7 heads of state who are members of the IGAD, talking about food security, talking about development in the region, matters peace, matters security. Just talk to us about expectations and even us hosting it as Kenyans. How big of an opportunity is this for us?
Thank you very much, Serfine, again, and welcome viewers. It's a very great pleasure to have such high-end forum taking place in Nairobi and in Kenya generally, because this gives investors a thumbs up that Kenya is a peaceful country and they can invest in Kenya. So in terms of geopolitical positioning, Kenya is positioning itself as one of the leading countries in the region, and a country that can be dependent upon by other neighbors and other regional states. So it's a very important, and the topics that are going to be discussed, like the food security, these are global concern that from the issues to do with the climate change that has resulted into very low production of food. So we expect concrete solutions that are going to address the issue of food security. For example, maybe IGAD can decide to come up with the seeds that are climate change resistant, like maybe the ones that were being used before, a long time ago, that were climate change resistant. And also in terms of security, very well that this region has been affected majorly by the issues to do with the Al-Shabaab, and also coming from the impact of COVID-19. It's also very important to know that the Al-Shabaab issue is a big concern, not just in the region, but also globally. Other issues of concern for the security are the conflicts and inter-conflicts. We have had regional conflict like the ones we're having between Rwanda and DRC Congo. The other day the presidents were here talking about it. So we hope these matters will be settled so that we have people in Congo living peacefully. The other time we had a conflict between Uganda again on the border between Uganda and Rwanda. As a region, if we embrace peace and understand that some of these conflicts can be addressed amicably within such setting, will be a very important thing. And I just hope that our leaders will be able to come up with the concrete solutions to address some of these concerns, some of these issues that affect the citizens of the region. Lastly, on the issue of food security, because I had not talked about it much, we have these agreements about movement of food, animals from one country to the other. I just hope that this region, especially the East African region, leave alone the IGAD and other members, but within the East African region, we can have free trade area, free trade zone, that people can move food from one location to the other. We might be having starvation in Kenya, we might be having shortage in Kenya, yet in Uganda they have surplus. surplus. Tanzania, they have surplus. Why can't we have this movement so that traders in Kenya can trade easily in Uganda, traders in Uganda can trade easily in Kenya, in addition to like protecting our local production, because we also need to protect our farmers and whatever. But there's a way that national governments, the leaders, our presidents and those people, policymakers, can agree on ways of having shortfalls filled, so that we don't have these continued cases of famine like what we are experiencing in Baringo. We have had just cases in Northeastern. You know, it's saddening that at this period in age, people are still dying of hunger. And the other day, World Food Program talked about 8 million, you know,
facing starvation.
Yeah. So I just hope that our leaders will come up with a concrete solution to the challenges that we face as citizens in the region.
When you talk about regional collaboration in addressing food security, I would cite a good example here in Kenya. Just recently, when there was that huge cry of the price of maize flour, unga if you like, and the Agriculture CS Peter Munya announced as part of efforts to sort of tame this skyrocketing price of maize flour, that they are going to adjust levies and taxes of maize imports so that at least the price of unga can go down. Many have complained, saying it's a drop in the ocean, but still, you know, a step in the right direction.
That's a drop in the ocean, because when you look at the process of importation, who are the people responsible for importing this maize? You know, there's maize products. Maybe there are people who are well known and they are after making a kill out of this situation. Why can't the government just leave it open to people, traders in Nyamakima, to go to Uganda or Tanzania and import this maize, because there are surplus all over. So apart from having a small cartel of people, you know, who are controlling the market. And you know, in the past we have had cases of maize shortage, being artificial. People create artificial shortage so that they can have that chance now to get in more and make a kill out of the suffering of Kenyans. I think the government should come up with the appropriate measures. Like we're just moving into harvesting season. Although maybe issues to do with the climate change and weather might have affected the production, but we're moving into harvesting season. Like from August, July, people will be harvesting. Why can the government buy from farmers these maize and store them? Have enough storage for that can take the country for almost a year or two, other than like reacting to situations. Every time Kenyans are dying, every year people are dying. This is not the first time. We have had these cases since when the deputy president was the agriculture minister in the Kibaki era. You remember there was serious shortage. Cartels came up, imported maize. That maize was found to have some chemicals. You know, up to now, some people died after consuming it. Why can't we have a plan, a strategic plan
that is sustainable?
That is sustainable, rather than reacting to situations every year.
All right. So those are some of the issues and critical questions that are going to be addressed during this upcoming IGAD summit that is supposed to be hosted right here in Kenya's capital, Nairobi. Food security, peace, security, and the development of the region among the issues on the table for the 7 heads of states to discuss. Of course, we'll be staying on top of that for you, just to you know, let you know how this develops. But we want to talk about the state of the race. 34 days to the August polls. Just earlier I was saying, at least now we have 4 manifestos. The last time I was having a sit down with you, it was only one manifesto that we were looking at. So now we have Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Alliance unveiled, was the first to unveil its manifesto, followed by the Kenya Kwanza. On the same day, the Roots Party leader, presidential candidate Professor George Wajakoya also unveiled his manifesto. And yesterday, Agano Party, their flag bearer there, also unveiled his manifesto. So what is the state now that we have for? Personally, I believe you have taken time to interact with these documents.
I've interacted with them quite well. Let me start with the latest baby on the block, and we have the Agano Manifesto. The Agano Manifesto is majorly on debt recovery, is majorly on bringing back the money that has been, hidden outside the country, is about increasing devolution fund from the current 35 to 40%. Then they also have another proposal of having almost 50 million to every county from that 40%. So the Agano Manifesto generally is about how to utilize the resources available and how to get the resources that is outside, that belong to Kenya, coming back and being utilized. When you look at the Wajakoya Manifesto, it was very interesting, although some people are talking about it, dramatizing it and, making it look like it was a fanfare. But a keen look at the manifesto unveiled by Wajakoya's party, you realize that it focuses on how Kenya is going to generate resources. Although some experts have come out to question some of the proposals made, like the rearing of snakes and extracting venom from snakes, growing of marijuana.
The how is the problem.
The how is the problem.
The objectives.
but again, the objectives are, to me, look very superficious. They don't really bring out the concreteness of a serious presidential candidate who is, the points might come out, but again, a keen look at how the Wajakoya delivers them makes it look like fun, huh? Because at some point he could even go off his manifesto and just start talking in Kiswahili, tutaua, nini, fisi, so that kind of thing. But again, we have countries that have grown marijuana, that have utilized marijuana, but these countries are still very poor. So countries like Jamaica, marijuana is grown there, and people are still in below poverty line. So I just hope that maybe Wajakoya might want to, and his manifesto, it was only 2 pages, Makiu, just a write-up of 2 pages. So you can analyze it beyond the 2 write-up. It's a very short document. So I just hope that Wajakoya, moving forward, that he will come up with other measures, because his delivery is all about how these resources are going to be generated. So, and he's throwing figures, huge figures. We're talking about trillions. We are talking about billions, in annual income, in annual revenue. But are these figures really tangible from the 3 items or 4 items is talking about?
But looking at the time this came, right now we're having a huge problem of a huge population in this country who are living below poverty line. People are struggling to feed their families. People don't have jobs. People cannot afford unga. And Wajakoya comes with this strategy of helping Kenyans make money at their own, space without having to rely on the government or subsidies or whatever. The language he used, that he sort of like came down to the level of Mwananchi. I mean, could this be points that probably could attract,
Wajakoya's delivery excites a few people who feel the system is undermining them, or the system is exploiting them. But again, when you look at that category of people that Wajakoya excites, to a large extent, these are people who have, in most cases, let me say, they are disillusioned. They have, they feel that this is the way to go. But again, it's a good idea. But why can't we expand the net? Why can Wajakoya expand the net wider, other than focusing on 1-2 items? What about if they fail, like growing of marijuana? As in, it can fail due to weather conditions. And now, is it that when it fails, now the country goes down? because we are talking about natural things, and natural things are subject or are subject to natural calamities.
All right.
When you are talking about snakes, snakes can die and get extinct.
All right. We'll come back to Wajakoya later.
Yes.
You've stayed on that Wajakoya manifesto for a while.
I'm moving
Let
forward.
me take you to Kenya Kwanza and Azimio.
Yes.
What do you think were their strongest points, both manifestos?
Those were the two I've talked about were the latest. I'm moving in that direction.
Okay.
Now we are on Kenya Kwanza. The Kenya Kwanza manifesto is majorly focusing on improving or targeting the people at the bottom of the pyramid. Because I remember the Honorable Deputy President William Ruto focused more on agriculture and said that agriculture is improving agriculture will help to uplift people in the villages. And here he's talking about value addition. He spent much time talking about agriculture and how agriculture can help address the issues we are facing now of food security. Another issue is about SMEs and housing. He's talking about empowering the people at the bottom of the pyramid to have access to credit, to have access to business opportunities, So his manifesto is, in economics we can say is micro. Is micro manifesto. It is focusing on small farmers, smallholder farmers, how these people can have food on their table. So those are the things I picked from the Kwanza Manifesto, Kenya Kwanza Manifesto, and most importantly, the issue of housing and settlement. He also talked so much about it. Now, when it comes to, before I go to Azimio Manifesto, there has been this debate about corruption, and we have had Azimio Azimio supporters saying that Ruto did not mention about how he's going to fight corruption. But I would like to disagree with them to some level, because when I listened to Ruto deliver his manifesto, and having gone through the manifesto, I've seen steps that is talking about how he's going to address the issues of corruption. And in his case, he's talking about strengthening the institutions, strengthening judiciary, strengthening the DPP's office,
and
strengthening
and
corruption, so that when these institutions are strengthened, they are able to address their roles, and they are able to play their roles. He talked about the state capture and making corruption look like a weapon to fight other people, like weaponization of corruption by the state, whereby when you hold a different opinion to the other, then you are there's agencies are on your door, you are arrested, especially on Friday. The commonly we are referring to them as the shikashika or
the
kamata, the Friday arrest, so that you are in for the weekend, you are released, there's no evidence presented, So I will support Ruto on strengthening the institutions. Whereas Ruto is talking about strengthening institutions, Raila's Azimio is talking about arresting the suspects and jailing them. I find it difficult on how this is going to be implemented, because before you arrest an individual, you need to have concrete evidence of what this person has committed. You can't go on a rampage to arrest people and present. In fact, he was talking of arresting and jailing them. So there's a process.
They have to be tried in court.
They have to be tried in court. You can't just arrest somebody and jail it because you are the government. But the Azimio side had some strength. The manifesto had some strength when. They talked about free education from primary to university. That's something that is commendable, because as much as we are talking of free education currently, you'll find that parents are still spending a lot of money, are still being asked to pay some levies for the school. And you go to villages, you find children are being sent home. So in addition to him talking about free education, we should also now expand the debate. Maybe that one will come at a policy level of having institutions like schools being improved in terms of infrastructure. Because you go to some schools, yes, there's free education, but children are learning under a tree. Children don't have the facilities. The other day I was reading about the government, the issue for laptops. And so far, I got some findings that the government has already distributed in excess of 1.5 million laptops to primary schools, children. But how are these laptops being utilized? In some areas you go, there's no power, there's no infrastructure, there's no nothing. So do you want those children to compete at the same level with the children who have the laptops in, in settings that are good for them?
So Bernard, having gone through these 4 manifestos, which you've taken us through so well, the key highlights, of course, these are big documents. Some of them are huge. You cannot complete them in one sitting. There has been concern raised about the how side of implementing some of these promises that the politicians cited in their manifestos. For example, the free education from primary to university. Right now, and for a very long time, we have struggled with implementing the free primary education just to achieve quality and affordability, both in one sentence, has been quite a struggle for the country. Sort of like making it free compromise the quality of education. Now, taking that all the way to university or tertiary level, I mean, how costly is it going to be for the country? Who is going to pay for this free education? Okay,
Serfine, some of these things we read in manifestos are barely promises. And the promises some might be achieved, some might not be achieved at all, some may be achieved below the par, and some might be achieved beyond expectations. So when you look at because that question of how has been coming up in various forums. I've had the Azmio team talking about sealing the corruption loopholes. Martha Karua has been on several occasions quoted by the media saying that there's a lot of money that is lost on a daily basis. The other day when the president was addressing the parliament, he also talked about a country losing 2 billion per day. So the Azmio team is focusing on sealing corruption loopholes and expanding the taxation regime. The Kenya Kwanza side, how they are going to deliver this manifesto is not yet very clear, but they are talking about also expanding the taxation brackets so that we have people who are empowered at the bottom of the pyramid contribute and participate in the tax payment, so that there's a high volume of tax being paid at the national level. But again, if taxation, we are focusing only on taxation and avoid other aspects of revenue generation. Of course, tax is the main revenue for the government. But again, we need to look at ways by which we are not going to make it very hard for people to pay that tax. Like if you come up with a regime that makes it mandatory to pay at a certain percentage, many people will hide. Many people will not be participating in the payment of
because
tax.
It's too high.
It's too high, yeah. So maybe if the taxation might be reduced, like the 16% maybe reduced to 10%, and so that we have many people, people captured in the tax bracket.
What are some of the alternatives, though, that the government can use to generate funds that go away from tax. Tax is the main source of income for the government, we all agree. But then if we all peg everything on tax, that means the more promise we have, the more we will have to part with in terms of money as Kenyans.
There are other sources of revenue for the government, like, exporting, foreign exchange, things like that. But Kenya is generally an agricultural country. Kenya is generally an importation country. We don't export. So maybe if these the leading candidates, the Azimio and Kenya Kwanza, might want to look at the issues of seriously industrializing this nation, so that we don't have a situation where we are going to import toothpicks from China. These are things that can be made by local artisans and export, so that we, instead of importing, we are exporting. And so my focus will be, apart from taxation, we focus more on industrialization. As Mia has talked about one count, one product, that is going to have industries in each and every counties, so that these counties produce one product that is sold either to the other county or is sold across, which is a brilliant idea. But again, the issue is we have so many industries that have collapsed. Go to Western region, we have Mias Sugar, we have Abuye, we have... What are the plans to revive these factories that have already collapsed? So that before we think about starting new ones, we are talking about reviving those stalled projects, those stalled industries, and maybe coming up with the cottage industries, like the EPZ. If we have cottage industries in each and every county, then we'll have more people generating income, and that income will add to the national revenue collection. So the basic of all these is industrialize.
All right.
Yeah.
I'll connect that with the other, elephant in the room, the issue of jobs, empowerment of women, empowerment of the youth, something that the presidential candidates spoke so passionately about. If you look at how this is captured in the 4 manifestos, who convinces you more on how they're going to address supporting, the young people to get a source of livelihood, and even just vulnerable families to get a source of livelihood?
So in terms of convincing, Wajakoya convinces me more on how to generate revenue and empowering those youth. Because it's telling them, plans this, do this, you'll get money. That's quick money. But the two sides, Azimio and Kenya Kwanza, all of them are passionate. Both of them are passionate about empowering young people, about creating opportunities for the youth, and doing everything possible that the youth are able to generate income. We have on the Azimio side, we have the Baba Care that comes with a stipend of 6,000 per month for a certain household, in addition to industrialization, creating opportunities, employment opportunities. On the other side of the coin, the Kenya Kwanza side, they are talking about giving, enabling access to credit.
The Hustler Fund.
The Hustler Fund is talking about, was it 5 billion?
50 billion.
50 billion to young people and women, so that they can generate revenue. So all these are handouts. Because if I give you money to start business, not everybody is a business-oriented person. Not everybody can start and grow business. And again, giving me a handout, because I'm poor, that you're giving me 6,000 under the social protection fund for the Baba Care, some of that money might not really be of great help to me. What is very important, because Kenya, as we speak now, churns more than 50,000 graduates annually. All these universities are churning out graduates. These people are skilled, these people are professional. So the idea is to have capacity building of these young people, so that we can refocus their mindset from white-collar jobs to jobs that can generate income for themselves, you know. Because when you are going to school, like us, when you are going to school, you are told, soma ukue mwandishi wa habari kama fulani fulani, soma ukue wakili kama fulani, you know. You are being told to look up to somebody who is maybe in the village, or your parents are watching on TV that this person looks good, you want to be like that person. The opportunities have now been filled up. There are no, you know,
white-collar jobs.
And the economy is not expanding. So if CBC is actually going to be, to realize, to be actualized, then is a way to go so that the young people that we churn out, that we graduate every year, are able to have hands-on skills, are able to participate in creative arts, are able to participate in other opportunities that come with the learned skills. So that's how I look at it. So in addition to Kenya Kwanza giving the Hustler Fund 50 billion, why can't we start by building the capacity of these young people so that they are able to use their skills before even giving them the money? The same way to Azimio, because we have a bulge of disillusioned young people. And you go to every village, Serfine, every village, you will get graduates. Now in Kenya is one of the most learned countries because young people in Kenya are learned. And if these young people are not given opportunity, are not given a chance to generate, to live a presentable life, they will look for their own ways. And that's why you have very professional robbers, you have people hacking banks, stealing money, you know, profession. They use those skills. People have trained in IT and they're able to access some of these and collapse these IT platforms, swindle money and, you know, that kind of things. So as much as these manifestos are talking about addressing the issues affecting youth, employment and so on, let us also focus on how these young people can live decent lifestyle in terms of using and exploiting on their talents.
But do we have the space for them to do that? There's also, as you answer that, also look at something that both manifestos for Kenya Kwanza and Azimio are proposing. For Kenya Kwanza, they're proposing, is it a one-year paid internship for graduates? And, you know, sort of an incentive for companies that are going to consider accommodating interns. And Azimio la Umoja One Kenya also talks about creating innovation hubs and business hubs, youth centers across different regions, just to prepare the youth for the future of work, the work environment, the job market out there.
That's what I was talking about. And just to add on the Kenya Kwanza aspect, they also talked about having internet subsidized connection and free to access, so that young people can be able to work even at home and work online. But that was also promised in the Jubilee Manifesto. 2013 it was there, 2017 it was there.
But that is exactly the point. Is there anything new in this manifesto that you would cite that wasn't there?
No. There's nothing new. And from the start, I told you, when you compare these two manifestos, you realize that there's a lot of similarities. The problem is the wording. The other one is so detailed to every word. The other one is summarized. But they are talking, and the language they speak the same things. Whereas Ruto is talking about having free internet and innovate, to encourage innovation among young people. Raila's side is talking about creation of innovation hubs. It's the same discussion that arose when we were talking about laptops for children. There was this argument that instead of giving children laptops, why can't we set up computer labs in every school so that children can access that lab and operate? It's the same language, because Ruto is saying we have free internet, then really saying, instead of having that free internet and let's create innovation hubs that will expand not only the use of internet, but these hubs are also going to create other avenues for young people to use their talents. So it's almost the same. And I just hope that maybe this time in time, leaders should not take Kenyans for granted. That you are talking about these huge, very appetizing scenarios, then after election, you disappear, you don't talk about it again. There are so many things that were promised by the Jubilee government when it was starting in 2013, so much. And Kenyans had that hope that at least this is a digital regime, this is a digital government that's going to improve the lives of young people.
All right.
But what happened? Everything collapsed. There are no stadiums. There's, the Big Four came.
But there are certain things you can spot that the Jubilee government has done. That
infrastructure, it did good.
I mean, you can't just wish it all away.
No. In terms of infrastructure, they did a wonderful job. At least if you take a photo of expressway and send somewhere, they will say this is a first-class country. But again, things that affect the common man, things that me and you relate on our daily basis. We need food, we need clothing, we need, those basic needs are the ones that people or the government should focus on to ensure that Kenyans, instead of this big infrastructure, Kenyans are living decently. Kenyans are able to access basic needs. Kenyans are able to meet their daily needs.
All right.
Yeah.
I want us to wrap this up. Of course, we cannot analyze all the 4 manifestos in 1 hour. But, as we close this conversation, this 100 days promise really quite cut across for both Azimio la Umoja, One Kenya. I'm not quite sure about Wajakoya, but I think he's the only candidate I didn't hear who categorically said that he's going to do 1, 2, 3 within 100 days. Even yesterday, the Agano Party presidential flag bearer, I didn't hear him quite cite that in 100 days I'll do this. This magic of 100 days.
100
for instance,
days. I think all of them have
passing the 2/3 gender rule within 1 year for Kenya Kwanza, employing teachers, 116,000 teachers within 2 years. Raila Odinga promising to employ all trained teachers within 100 days. I mean, is it even possible?
I'll start with the Agano. They also had 100 days. They said they have started writing to countries where the offshore countries where money is stuffed in offshore accounts, and within 100 days they will bring all that money. Wajakoya said within 100 days is going to hang all corrupt individuals and have suspend the constitution. And there were 3-4 items that he mentioned.
So 100 days is 3 months.
3 months.
These are things we have been struggling with as a country for years.
Then you look at all the promises to be implemented within 100 days. When I was here last time talking about the Azimio manifesto, I really questioned the promises that are being made for 100 days. Most of these promises actually are unachievable, because within 100 days we are still talking about petitions, if they will be there. Within 100 days we are talking about appointment of CSS, approval by the parliament, for the appointments. Within 100 days we are talking about settling. A new government comes in, so you are settling to see where do you get revenue, where do you spend this money to, how do you do this. 100 days, all these things are just flowers. We had 100 days of NAC government. When Kibaki just came into power, they talked about 100 days delivery of free education, which took almost a year. So what I might say, Serfine, is about maybe progression. Not really limit ourselves to the 100 days, but maybe they will do these things in progression so that it's work in progress. But we hope they will be achieved at the end of the
day.
End
like
of
the
day.
2/3 gender rule since 2010.
Since 2010, since the promulgation of the new constitution, we're still talking about
how will it happen within a year?
So
that's something we have.
That's why I'm saying the promises look good. The Kwanza, Kenya Kwanza plan, Ruto talks about the plan, Raila talks about the agenda. Both the plan and the agenda look good. The issue is how they are going to be implemented, and they are both talking about very nice things. They are talking about things that are aimed at improving the living conditions of Kenyans. How I hope that even within the 100 days, the promises are not going to close at the end of the 100 days. Let us see those promises maybe having work in progress. At the end of the day, they should be actualized.
All right. Thank you so much, Bernard, for creating time for us. Bernard Wakoli is a political analyst. We appreciate your insights on these manifestos. Of course, this is what we'll continue to do as we help Kenyans to just be on the road to making the right decision on the 9th of August, 2022. You have 4 manifestos to interact with. I hope, if you haven't, you will create time to go through them, because that is the only thing that you will use to hold whoever is going to be elected on that day accountable. That is the promise they have given you as a Kenyan in what they plan to fulfill for you. So you will have nothing against them if you do not know what they placed on the table for you to choose. And that's how we wrap it up as we pave way for the Swahili version of the program. Tamrini and Kurunzi Mashinani, Zainab Said will be taking you through that. Do stand by for that and much more. From us, Serfine Achieng, thank you for creating time once again. Have a good afternoon and enjoy the rest of your viewing.
How about we get married and live here together?
I'll marry you.
I can see that you're still in love with the prince. Why would you offer to marry the king?
Echo?